Last week, Hillary Clinton said there's something wrong with our justice system. It's her husband, Bill, and his crime bill from 1994, which imposed harsher sentences and bolstered police gear in response to surging violent crime. At the time, the violent crime rate was 713 per 100,000 people. That's a lot. But after the law, it halved to 368 per 100,000. Now, this might be the best thing Bill Clinton ever did. How sad that he's now trashing it, claiming that it led to fuller prisons as opposed to deadlier streets.
The way it was written and implemented, we cast too wide a net. We have too many people in prison. I strongly support what she's doing, and I think any policy that was adopted when I was president in federal law that contributed to it should be changed.
That's amazing. In sum, he just smeared real positive change because he hadn't yet christened every room in the White House with his DNA. Yeah. Behold the nature of the political animal, one who abandons life-saving principles in favor of ideological pandering meant to expand power and indulge the extreme. It's the curse of law enforcement success. Every policy that made us safer is now unneeded because we are safer. It's like a diabetic tossing his insulin once he's stabilized his blood sugar. I guess we should let muggers off with a warning or start Criminals Anonymous to help them shake their crime addiction. So as the Clintons renounce that bill, I renounce Bill, who seems fine returning to a time when America was twice as deadly. For people born in the 1980s who were just babies, go ahead and rent Death Wish. It's a movie from 1974. Once an artifact of a bygone era, it's now the progressive roadmap for the future. So, KG, in a sense, Bill just threw his own greatest achievement under the bus so his wife could be president.
I mean, that's
romantic.
That's charming, isn't it? It's charming. But that's the idea. They'll do whatever it takes to win. He's like, yeah, whatever I did before, throw it out as long as we can get the keys back to the White House.
Yes, exactly.
Anything goes. That's the thing. I mean, it's unbelievable. And he's out there talking more, and so is Chelsea. Mm-hmm. Hillary, she can't be heard from. And, you know, I mean, he's, a great retail politician, but I don't even know if he can save her this time.
He said before, so we'll finally be able to say loudly and clearly that repeat violent criminal offenders, 3 strikes and you're out. We're tired of putting you back through the revolving door. That was 1994. Now he's saying, well, keeping them behind bars does little reduce crime, but it does a lot to tear families apart. That's from Hillary. Yeah. Our prisons and our jails are just mental health institutions. A complete turn. How do you go from Baltimore and you make the connection that what's going on there is because of prison?
How do you
make that connection?
There's a good point in there. There should be institutions for people who are mentally unstable, and they shouldn't be in prison. But
that's not what 3 strikes is about. 3 strikes is for violent offenders, for recidivists, for career criminals, from people that aren't sitting there reading a book to their kid at home. They're out doing armed robberies or murders or gangs or whatever.
By the way, reading books to your kids,
dangerous.
That's white privilege.
It is privilege because nobody ever has time to do it. Look, this is what I think about it. This is not just a Bill Clinton issue. People as disparate as Cory Booker and Rand Paul in the Senate are actually working criminal justice reform because I think everybody, or not, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of well-meaning people on both sides of the aisle, somebody like a Rand Paul and somebody like a Cory Booker, have decided that what we do is incarcerate people who would be better being treated elsewhere. And the vast majority of people in our prisons are actually not violent criminals. If you get busted dealing pot 3 times in a row, or even dealing coke 3 times in a row, and you're not some big heavy hitter, should you be in prison for years and years?
If you're a drug dealer,
If you're, excuse me, there's a big difference between a drug dealer from Colombia and a drug dealer who shows up and deals a little on the side and should not end up for decades and decades
until they're out in front of your kids' school selling drugs.
Can
I agree and disagree with you at the very same time?
I would love that.
I agree with you that you're right. 3 strikes applies to even low-level drug crimes.
Guys,
no, stop.
That's erroneous. That's wrong.
All right, whatever. 3 strikes, you're out. There are a lot of criminals with low-level, not violent crimes who are spending life in prison. Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are trying to walk back. The issue isn't whether that's right or wrong. You and I can agree that we think maybe some low-level drug offenders should be let out of prison. Right. We will agree with that. The problem is Bill Clinton had the crime bill in '94. He pushed it. It failed. He pushed it again. Hillary got out there. She got into the media and pushed hard for the crime bill to pass. They got the crime bill, and now they're trying to walk it all back.
It's been 20 years. You can't evolve. I evolved on Rush.
She evolved on the crime bill. She evolved on gay marriage. She's evolved on immigration.
She's
evolved on Wall Street. She's evolved on everything.
I know, but Bolling, just really quick, because otherwise I'm going to get 300,000 emails and tweets about this. Yep. 3 strikes, you had to have 2 violent offenses the first. The third you could be put in, right, if you didn't have a violent offense. That's been changed. And so you don't have people going in that, like, pickpocketed a chapstick at CVS going into prison. So you don't have people who are low-level offenders in state prisons, correctional facilities, maximum security prisons. You do not.
You know what's amazing?
That the
person who came up with 3 strikes was obviously into baseball. What if that person was into bowling? It would be 10 strikes. It would have been a disaster.
Gutter balls.
It would have been gutter. We have an entire justice system based on a sports analogy, a sports metaphor. That's kind of freaky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a freaky.
Come to this side of the table. You sound like Bolling and me.
No, I do believe there's too many people in prison.
Thank you.
But I just believe there's too many people.
Yeah, where were you in this debate on letting some low-level drug offenders out?
I believe
those are
that
federal guidelines. You can let some of those dudes out.
Revolving door.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm against.
We're not. You guys don't know.
I'll tell you. No, let me answer, Eric. I'm against people being arrested for regulatory crimes, like stuff like Lucy's, stuff like that.
You realize nobody's going to prison for that, right?
No, but what
they don't even have room for people like that in county jail.
You're right.
They issue
but that takes up court time. Kimberly, it takes up court time. They call it the revolving door. They keep going in and out and in and out and in and out instead of focusing on the rapists and the murderers.
Well, fine. Go back to like de Blasio.
Crimes versus victim.
And the Lindsay Lohans who've gotten like 17 chances, and why is she not in prison?
She's in her own prison.
About how the Clintons will say anything to get elected?
Yes.
We don't put people in prison that have substance abuse issues unless they break the law by committing DUIs and killing people and doing things like that. Then that becomes a different subject matter.
I want to just quote a tweet from Ross Douthat. Increasing average time served for murder from 5 to 15 years amid a historically high murder rate does not strike me as an unsound policy. He's referring to the crime bill, and I agree.